I'm going to make a video about empathy. I guess everybody has a different amount of empathy. I'd say I have a sometimes low amount of empathy and sometimes high amount of empathy, depending on how my mood is. But what I want to focus on is how we can use our empathy in a good way, because I feel like a lot of empathetic people can sort of lose themselves in their own empathy. Maybe you see someone struggling and you want to help them, and you know that's all good and all nice, but you can lose yourself in trying to help or fix somebody, and get too caught up in their problems and let it destroy you. And there's another level of empathy where you can feel the emotions of other people and feel other people's pain, and you can understand them on an emotional level and use that to aid them and be there for them when they need it. And the difference between the two is not too dissimilar, so it can be hard to know what to do when you're an empathetic person. But also, I guess, sometimes empathy can be hard for a lot of people, and I think that's a sort of being cut off from the world side to it, where maybe it's sort of more of a knowing that empathy has the ability to destroy you and has the ability to allow manipulation. And so cutting off your own empathy means that you're a lot less likely to be manipulated or get hurt by others. But I do think that by cutting off your own empathy, you're cutting off part of yourself, and a good part of yourself which can be used for good, and a part of yourself which can be explored and expanded on. I feel like when you truly are in touch with your emotions, in some ways that I have become more in touch with my emotions is through meditation, just by letting my emotions be there and feeling them rather than getting my head caught up in them, just feeling my emotions within my body and feeling how they affect me on a physical level. And so when they do come up in certain situations, I'm not as caught up in them, and then you are able to understand yourself and be empathetic towards yourself, and so you can also be empathetic towards others because you're not so caught up in yourself. And you're less self-centered because you understand your emotions, you know how you're feeling, and so you can focus less on yourself and focus on what action you can intake to improve how you and how someone else feels. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I felt like it made sense to me, at least. Yeah. Sometimes we can come into contact with emotional people, and it can make us emotional, and as people, we want to help other people for the most part. I think most people want to help other people. I believe that, truly. But trying to control that, and getting overwhelmed because you feel like you can't do anything about someone else's situation is sort of what happens when you lose yourself in empathy, and you try everything possible to please somebody, to help them, to try and help them. I've been victim to this myself. But sometimes doing this isn't just bad for you, but it can be bad for both parties, both sides, because at that point in time they might not feel like they need help or that they want help, or yeah. And if you can tell that someone truly doesn't want help, I think the most empathetic thing that you can do is to let them go, and let them do things for themselves and figure things out for themselves, because your own mental health is more important than to you, should be more important to you than anybody else's, I believe. And and sometimes it is just best to choose yourself, not in a self-centered way. I think it's actually quite a selfless thing, because there are lots of, like, you can literally end up going down with someone because they're not in a good state, and that might make them feel even worse about their state, because they then will start to believe that it's their fault for making you go down with them. And these are some moral dilemmas which I'm getting into here, but I think a lot of the time it is just best to leave people, and it is sometimes the most empathetic thing to do. I think that's all I wanted to say.